The Drifting Shrine. In a coastal village shaped like a crescent moon against the cliffs, there lived a fisherman named Kaito. His hands were nets of sinew and salt, his eyes the gray of a storm-ready sea. Once his laughter had echoed in the harbor, but that was before the great wave took his little daughter, Mariko. Now, Kaito was a man who had lost something important, and his soul was a silent, barren shore. He no longer fished with the others. Instead, he would row his skiff into the veils of morning mist, searching not for mackerel or sea bream, but for a glimpse, a shadow, a ghost of what was gone. The other villagers whispered, "He seeks the drifting shrine." It was a story told in hushed tones by the hearth, that in the liminal space between grief and acceptance, when the heart's loss was heavier than an anchor stone, the shrine would appear, not of wood or stone, but of memory and mist. It would offer not the lost thing itself, but an answer to the longing. "Foolishness," the village headman would scoff, "a tale for children and broken old men." But Kaito was broken, and so he believed. One evening, as the sun drowned in a pool of molten gold, Kaito saw it. Where for years there had been only empty horizon, a soft, pearlescent glow shimmered. It pulsed like a jellyfish in the deep, forming into the shape of a tiny torii gate, then the swooping roof of a shrine, seemingly woven from sea foam and twilight. It did not sit upon the water, but hovered just above it, an echo of a place. His heart, a drum he thought silent, began to beat. He rode. He rode until his muscles screamed, and the village lights were pinpricks behind him. The mist enveloped him, cold and smelling of distant rain and old pine. And then he was there. The drifting shrine was both there and not there. He could see the worn wood of the offering box, hear the faint tonk of a wind chime he could not see. Yet when he reached out to touch a pillar, his fingers passed through it like cold smoke. Before the shrine, instead of a statue of a fox or dragon, stood a figure of shifting sand, its form ever-changing, a child, a wave, a locked box, a wilted flower. A voice, not in the air but in the marrow of his bones, spoke. "You who are anchored by loss, you have found the place of drifting. State what you have lost." "My daughter," Kaito gasped, salt on his lips from tears or sea spray. "Mariko, I lost her to the sea. I want her back." The sandy figure shifted, becoming a perfect miniature whirlpool. "The shrine does not return what was taken. It returns what you have lost of yourself." Kaito fell to his knees on the insubstantial mist floor. "I don't understand. I have lost nothing but her." "Look," the voice intoned. The mist before him cleared, becoming a moving picture. He saw himself years ago teaching Mariko to mend a net, her small fingers clumsy but earnest. He saw his own face, patient and smiling. The scene changed. He was showing her the secret names of the stars. That is the fisherman's hook, and that the lantern of the lost. He saw himself singing the old silly chanty about a forgetful octopus. With each scene, a tiny bright ember, warm and orange, drifted from the image of his past self and settled in his hollow chest. Then the scene shifted to the day after the wave. His face was stone. He threw away the unfinished net they were mending. He nailed shut the window that looked out to the stars, calling them liars' lights. He vowed never to sing again, for song was for the whole of heart. As each of these actions played out, a cold blue light, like the heart of a glacier, streamed from him and vanished into the shrine's mist. "You took my patience," Kaito whispered, understanding dawning like a cruel tide. "You took my wonder. You took my song." "No," the voice corrected, gentle as a receding wave. You gave them away. You offered them to your grief as tribute, and it consumed them. Your loss was not just Mariko, it was the man who was her father. Can I get them back? He pleaded. The sandy figure flowed into the shape of a key. You already have. To see them is to reclaim them. But remember, a shrine is a place of offering. What will you offer in return? Kaito thought of the blue, cold lights, his stone silence, his sealed nights, his rejected joys. They were not friends, they were jailers. He did not want them back. I offer my guilt, he said, the words scraping his throat raw. The guilt that I lived and she did not. The guilt that every breath I take is one she cannot. He felt something wrench loose inside him, a sharp, dark shard he had carried so long he thought it was part of his spine. It pulled free and dissolved into the mist. The shrine brightened. I offer my anger, he choked, the rage at the wave, at the sky, at the uncaring gods. A hot, poisonous river seemed to pour from his eyes and mouth, dissipating as it touched the shrine's aura. The mist grew warmer. Finally, he whispered, I offer my need to have her back. It was the hardest thing, the core of his pain, to surrender the hope that somehow this magic could reverse time. I offer my wish and accept my memory. As he said it, the crushing pressure on his chest lightened, as if a great weight had been lifted not from him, but through him. The sandy figure softened, becoming the shape of a crane. It bent its head. You have made your offerings. Now receive. The 3 orange embers, his patience, his wonder, his song, flew from his chest and did not vanish. They hung before him. He reached out, and as he touched each one, it flowed back inside him. With patience, he saw Mariko not as a ghost in the water, but as a joy that had graced his life, finite and perfect. With wonder, he saw the sea not as a thief, but as a vast, living thing of terrifying beauty, her final resting place. With song, he found his voice, and a lullaby for her, long unsung, rose to his lips, not as a dirge, but as a release. The drifting shrine began to fade, its outlines bleeding back into the mist. Will I see it again? Kaito asked, not with desperation, but with curiosity. Only if you lose something important again, the voice echoed, growing distant. And you will. All mortals do. But now you will know what is truly lost and what is merely waiting to be found within. Kaito sat in his boat as the last shimmer vanished. The moon was high, painting a silver road on the water. He felt exhausted, scraped clean, but for the first time in years, the hollow in his chest was not a void of absence, but a space filled with a quiet, sorrowful peace. He picked up the oars. He knew the way home. Back in the village, the headman saw Kaito row into the dawn. He saw the man look up at the fading stars, a faint, familiar smile on his withered face. And the headman, who had lost a brother to the sea long ago and had built a shell of gruffness around the loss, felt a strange pang in his own chest. That evening, by the fire, Kaito did not speak of the shrine, but when a child asked about the stars, he did not turn away. He began to tell her, his voice rough but kind, and as he spoke, the headman, listening from the shadows, thought he saw a faint, pearlescent glow far out at sea, just a trick of the moonlight, no doubt. Yet he found himself walking down to the shore the next morning, his own heart feeling strangely, importantly, lost, and he looked out to the mist and wondered.